It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. We are 5 minutes post-loss to Uruguay, and we've gotten grouped from the Copa America. And usually I pass it to Will to start, but I just need to start with Gregg Berhalter. There's countless things to say about him, but where I need to start is when Bolivia made it 1-1 and we were 0-0, and they were about to have a free kick, and he throws up the ones to our team for countless reasons. That is the most ridiculous thing I've seen in my entire life. If you want to know why this team can't win big matches, we haven't won against the top 20 team outside of Mexico. If you want to know why this team continues to get red cards and throw temper tantrums, that exact moment tells you the entire story. He has no clue how to lead a team. He has no clue how to drill a correct mentality into a team for so many reasons. Let's start one. We are about to defend an attacking free kick, and you do the one thing that could possibly distract this team from being switched on to defend a free kick, which is something that we have struggled with a bit because we don't have aerial dominant players that much. So it may be smart to maybe let them know after the fact. If you really want to let them know after the fact that they have tied the match. But more than that, the fact that you are then playing for a draw, one, assuming that Bolivia is going to keep this 1-1 when there was 30 minutes left in the match, which they obviously didn't. They lost 3-1. But also, we went into this match pretty much knowing we had to get 3 points. And that has to be the mentality from start to end, unless Bolivia was up 3-0 or the match was over and they got the draw. You do not tell your team that it is 1-1. The goal at minute 1 was to go get 3 points. That has to be the only thing spoken to the team. I understand it's circulated around the stadium, and if they find out that way, fine. But your manager essentially telling you, I no longer believe that you guys can beat this team. It is 1-1 in the other match. We are going through as of right now. Let's defend this draw, and hopefully we get through on 4 points. It's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
There's been a lot of reasons to dislike Gregg Berhalter for his decisions in his starting 11s, his decisions on substitutions, the things he says to the media, the way, things have come out about what happened with Gio Reyna's family and whatever. There have been plenty of reasons. But the way that he handled the last 2 matches of this tournament, starting with the substitution of Carter Vickers, ending with the 1-1, it goes on past that, but that just should tell everything the U.S. Soccer Federation needs to know about him as a manager. We saw it all play out in a major tournament. This isn't the first major tournament we've seen it play out in. We saw it play out at the World Cup, the way that he handled the starting 11 there. Okay, maybe he's moved on. He started to play the starting 11 that people wanted to see, which, by the way, I'm not a huge fan of a manager's basically admitting I've been wrong and I'm going to go with the 11 everyone wants.
But you got to learn from your mistakes.
You got to learn from your mistakes. We'll let him move on. He clearly doesn't have a clear identity. We know that. But then to go and do that, even if you want to tell the players it's 1-1, I'm sure there's been discussion prior to the match that they will be updated on what the score is. You obviously do not do it before defending a set piece of any kind. There's a reason you do not make substitutions when you're defending a set piece. Your players need to be switched on. They need to know exactly the role of what they are doing. They need to know exactly what is going on, and then to put something else in their mind mere seconds before a ball is played in from a dangerous area against great aerial threats like Darwin Nunez, who gets ahead to it, and then switch off and give up that goal is on Gregg Berhalter. And people want to say, yes, the players do need to step up. I think we'll get to the fact that we're not overly impressed with the way the likes of Weston McKennie played in this tournament and other players in midfield. But it all starts from the top. And we've seen it with so many players and teams at club football level. And I think for the first time in a while, it's being discussed about the U.S. men's national team in terms of mentality, not just tactics, not just players. We have the players. We have players who have easily gotten out of a group with Bolivia and Panama. But to not be able to do that, it has to fall on the manager. It does. The players need a leader. There is a young squad. Yes, this is players that should have stepped up. There are some players who've been playing for a while, but it is still a young team. Outside of Tim Ream, this is a very, very young team. And it's just very disappointing to see it go down this way. Right when Bolivia get that goal, that should be a great moment for the fans. But the players need to continue to play the game plan, which is we need to get 3 points and control our own destiny. And they did not do that. The same way that we went to a 5 at the back, down to 10 men against Panama, we did not control our own destiny in this match. And at a certain point, the U.S. Soccer Federation needs to look at what's going on and decide, okay, we've done our best with this manager. He had his moments. We won a couple of Nations Leagues. We have surpassed Mexico, but that is not the goal. The goal is to be a team that can get out of groups at major tournaments, that can make deep runs at major tournaments. Maybe the goal isn't win a World Cup. I understand that.
Yeah.
But what we're seeing is not acceptable. And as lifelong U.S. men's national team fans, it's quite upsetting to see that we, if anything, have almost taken a step backwards as a team.
It's just so disappointing for countless reasons because there was so much hype about, like, let's just see positivity when we finally have a great team and we're hosting a big tournament. Like, our expectations weren't to win the tournament.
No.
And both of us were pretty realistic. Get out of the group. If we play Colombia or Brazil tight and we lose, it is what it is. But you take positives from this and you go to the World Cup. There's not a single positive to take from this tournament outside of Fuller and Balogun. There's just not a single positive. And it's honestly depressing. Like, the 2026 World Cup is coming, and if Berhalter is the manager, I have literally nothing to look forward to outside of the opportunity of actually watching really good players play in person.
You know, on top of that, even if Berhalter is the manager, we are not going to come out of playing 2 major tournaments with him, and I still don't know what our best 11 is with him at the helm. I know what I would like my best 11 to be, but we have not found a best 11 with him at the helm. That is disappointing. We are not England. We are not Spain. We are not Germany. We don't have 20 players you can make a best 11 with. He can't figure out his best 11 with this team to play against every side. That is a sign of a bad manager. He can't figure out who are the best substitutions. The fact that we couldn't see Tillman or Haji Wright until the last 10 minutes of the last match.
Who both made an impact in their
immediately, correct. That's a problem. He can't figure out who his best players are. He can't figure out how to utilize his best players. He can't figure out how to get the most out of Gio Reyna, who had a great first half in this match and then disappeared. He can't figure out how to get the best out of Yunus Musa, who is a very talented young player but can't find a role on this side. He can't figure out how to get the best out of Anthony Robinson, who had the best season of his career at Fulham, was talked about as one of the best left backs in the Premier League, not even as USA fans. He was a top 5 left back in the best league in the world this year. I think you could get 60-70% of Premier League fans who really watch the sport to agree with that statement. And you got a manager who can't get the best out of that player. That is the issue. We can make jokes about whatever we want to make jokes about, things that happened 30 years ago, couldn't figure out whatever, blah, blah, blah. The issue is we have good players and he's not getting the most out of them. He's not getting enough out of them to get out of this group. There's no plausible reason why any manager at any sport at any level would get to keep their job after showing that time and time again. That is the truth of what's going on. And I'm going to just be really surprised if the U.S. Soccer Federation just can't figure that out. We got past the thing, he's taking too many MLS players. We've gotten past all kind of the social media bite type things. It just comes down to this fact that the manager's job in any sport is to get the best out of his players, and Gregg Berhalter is not doing that. So you need to move on before the next major tournament. It's that simple.
And we'll get to the refs who were shambolic.
Of course.
And the competition as a whole, maybe, and the players. But one last thing on Berhalter, because he is the biggest talking point because it is that bad. Mentality is so big in sports. You see it in American sports. The reason Tom Brady, Michael Jordan, all these greats end up as good, because they're mentality monsters. As much as skill takes you as far as you can, so does mentality. That's a very real thing. It's why Christian Pulisic also often pops up and scores very big goals for this U.S. men's national team. He has the mentality. He wants to be a killer. Berhalter is not a killer, and showing that 1-1 is the exact reason. You see it. Get out of American sports. Pep Guardiola goes on rants to his players on the pitch after they've just won a match 3-0. But he wants absolute perfection. On top of that, Marcelo Bielsa, the Uruguay manager, you have people on Twitter who are like, why in the world would they play their same starting 11? They have absolutely nothing to play for. Not only did they play their full starting 11, they played this match like it was the Copa America final, getting in on every single tackle, accumulating yellow cards that may hurt them later in the competition, killing off the game like it was 1-0 in the World Cup final in the last 5 minutes. And that is because they have a leader who has instilled in them that nothing but absolute perfection and mentality and dominance is what will be accepted. And we We so clearly don't have that. And I think the red card into that 1-1 shows exactly, tactics aside, which are atrocious, and team picking and substitution picking and all of that aside.
Of course.
If he just instilled to this team like better mentality, you could probably get around tactics that were a little woeful and substitutions that are a little woeful. But like, we go down to the red card, we score. A team with strong mentality, minimum gets a draw from that Panama match. We allow 2 goals. Like it's just mental.
We allowed 2
midgets.
goals after having a lead.
We're just mental midgets, and you will never win anything serious, especially in tournament football, if you don't have the correct mentality. I mean, there's no bigger situation than tournament group stage football, where your mentality and your leadership from top to bottom comes more to the forefront. And potentially, if he doesn't get fired, it comes from the top down, because then the U.S. Soccer
Well, that's
Federation,
what I'm saying. It's top
as
to
a
bottom.
whole, just has no mentality. If they do not fire Gregg Berhalter with us hosting the World Cup, then I don't blame a single person underneath that is run by the Federation for not improving what happens, for not expecting to improve what happens, because that honestly just shows us that they don't really care. They've done everything they need to. They're growing the sport a little bit. There's more revenue coming in with TV deals. We got the World Cup, which is a huge revenue driver and an everything driver. We did everything that I'm sure checks the bucket list for the U.S. Soccer Federation, who don't actually give a fuck about putting a team together that can actually be competitive. And I don't think U.S. men's national team fans are super unrealistic. All we want is a relatively competitive team who it's expected to get out of the group, which we thought we were at, but clearly we're not, and then win a knockout match. And then after that, everything else is, if it happens, it's great. If it doesn't, that's the state of U.S. soccer, and that's okay. I'm not in love with that. I want to compete for tournaments, but that's not where we're at. But it seems like we took a big step back this tournament, and it's honestly depressing. It's very depressing.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on a lot of good things there. I just wanted to add on the point about Bielsa, and it ties in perfectly to the U.S. Soccer Federation, where he said to his players, you need to go out and win this match in 90 minutes.
And there was no other
And
option.
if you don't go out and do it, you're not starting in the next match. Whereas
there's consequences. There's rotation.
There's consequences for your actions. Every minute is important of every match. There's no switching off. And that teaches them in the next match and the next match and every consequent match after that, that every second, every duel, every ball that's played in, every second the clock is running, that it matters. And that's top to bottom. The U.S. Soccer Federation has said, and they've shown, it doesn't matter what Gregg Berhalter does. It doesn't matter if we get kicked out of a tournament without any real chance at going forward. It doesn't matter if 40 years ago you made a mistake. It doesn't matter if you continue to pick the bad 11. It doesn't matter if you can continue to fail. And you know what? Berhalter's like, I see that from the U.S. Soccer Federation. That trickles down to the players. Serginho Dest, you're great. You're incredibly talented. We need you at right back. I don't care if you throw a tantrum in a match and get an unnecessary red card. Same thing.
Your parents teach you that from day one. There's consequences to your actions.
100%.
And we are somehow the only situation in the world where that does not apply. There are no consequences to anyone's actions. Realistically, do I want this to be the reality? No, but like if Weah wasn't allowed to be around the team because of like, I wouldn't hate that stuff. Do I want that? No, but it just goes to show that we have a manager that is like, that is absolutely unacceptable, and there are consequences. We don't have the opportunity, but I wouldn't have been shocked if the second Weah was allowed to play, he'd be the first name on that team sheet.
100%, and I think we've seen that just over and over again with this team, and to be honest, I think it kind of ties in to what I would love to talk about next, which is not even the refs, because I don't want to give Berhalter the blessing of that the refs were to blame for any of this, because to be honest, they've been terrible in this whole tournament, and everyone else is dealing with it.
They get terrible for
They
everyone.
were terrible both ways, by the way, today.
Mexico,
it wasn't just bad
Mexico
towards
had
us.
a lot of claims for some handballs against Ecuador. They got kind of screwed. Like, the VAR lines weren't great. Like, that's the reality. Everyone is playing
with the same refs.
Conditions.
It's not just this one ref that was bad. The refs have been bad in this tournament.
Yep.
So what I wanted to say was, and if you enjoyed anything we just said about Berhalter or agree with us, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and we will be covering U.S. men's national team, the players on the team playing in Europe all year. We're going to talk about where they should transfer. Many of them are kind of moving between clubs this summer, some coming from the MLS. We'll get to that. We're also doing Euros coverage, so make sure to subscribe. But I just wanted to say that even the likes of Weston McKennie, who is the first name on the team sheet in a lot of ways, he played a bad match in the first match. He was just fine against Panama. He was incredibly poor today. 18 of 26 passing. He won 2 of his 12 duels. And he plays every single minute. That's not acceptable. If you're not playing well, I don't care how important you are.
Have a like-for-like replacement.
You need to come off the pitch. You need to be fighting for every minute that you're on the pitch. And I love Weston McKennie, and I think he's, as I said, one of the most important players to the side. But it's from the top down. If Weston McKennie isn't responsible for playing his hardest and being at his best, then why is Luca De La Torre? Why is Josh Sargent? Why is Joe Scally, who, by the way, was probably the best and most consistent performer in this team outside of Pulisic and Balogun throughout this tournament? Because you know what? He knows if he fights hard for a spot, he can win the right back spot for the U.S. men's national team. He's playing for something, and that actually means something. Having competition at positions means something. Holding people responsible for their actions means something. And you know what? Tim Weah doesn't have to worry about competition. He knows he can do that, and he's the first name at right wing on the team sheet. And you know what? U.S. isn't blessed with a ton of talent, but there are players on that bench who would fight for the badge and aren't being given the chance because Gregg Berhalter does not hold anybody accountable.
Yeah, I mean, we treated McKennie like he was like Ronaldo or Harry Kane. Like, you just don't bring off world-class players because regardless of how they're playing, they might win the match. For Weston McKennie's not that guy.
He's not.
He wasn't good. It's not like he was just having one bad performance coming off of 2 brilliant performances in the group stage.
Correct.
To where he might turn it on and give it to you. He was horrible the entire match, and you have a like-for-like sub in Yunus Musa who can easily play the 8 for you if you want him to.
100%.
And I think let's go through player by player what we learned, what we liked, what we disliked. Because now we have nothing left to talk about but takeaways from the tournament because we have nothing to fucking look forward to.
It's very disappointing.
Until Berhalter's fired. We're out of the tournament.
And like you said, like we both had, I think, fairly realistic expectations coming in. I mean, we talked about the chance of getting groups. We knew it was a possibility. Felt it wouldn't happen. We felt fairly confident it wouldn't happen.
I felt very strongly it was
but
not
we knew
going
it
to
was
happen.
a possibility.
Yeah.
We then thought it's highly unlikely we're going to beat Colombia. That would be Overachieving would be to get to the quarterfinals.
100%.
That's realistic for this team.
Without a doubt.
Overachieving was the quarterfinals. Expectation was the round of 16. Anything less, overachieving was the semifinals. Yeah. Meeting expectations was getting out of the group, and not getting out of the group was unacceptable.
Yep. And here we are.
And it's unacceptable.
Yep.
So, I mean, I guess we can go player by player.
Yeah.
Turner was fine in front of goal. Not great.
Good.
The Panama goal, I think you saw, most people kind of agreed he probably should have gotten a hand to it. The goal today...
He's not world class.
He's not world class, but if you're going to be a goalie...
When we do these evaluations, it's like, when I said about...
Was he up to par? Yes. Did he exceed expectations? No, he was below par.
Like when I said about the manager that we need, a lot of people say, who's our replacement if we fire Berhalter? And I'm saying we don't need one. We can find one. When we talk about these players, like we know who's in our system. When we talk about them, it's like who replaces them. Like I think Matt Turner is still our best number 1. I think
agree.
He played on par. He makes the saves he should make. Sometimes few and far between he'll make an amazing save, but he does enough to
He
play
didn't
for
make
a
one
side.
memorable save in this tournament. And
Sure.
to me, that's an issue. If you're the U.S. men's goalie, we've had a lot of goalies make memorable saves because they've had to. He didn't make the save against
They don't
Panama.
get as much work
He didn't make the
anymore.
double save today.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I don't think...
No, it's fair.
I don't think he should have necessarily saved both of those, but he saves one of those and we get through.
But when we talk about it as we progress going forward, he's still our number 1.
I don't think there's another option, unfortunately.
Okay, so we move to left back. Jedi Robinson, for me, was the second most disappointing player outside of Weston McKennie.
I think for the level that he played at this year, very disappointing.
Extremely wasteful on his crosses. Defensively, I thought he was pretty solid. But again, his touch, his play in possession, when we try and play a possession-based side, just not good enough at all. Unfortunately, as we've discussed, maybe at that right wing position with Weah, do we have a replacement for Jedi? No.
I mean, I agree. The only chances he really created were in that match against Bolivia when we were already up 2-0.
Right.
And outside of that, I mean, he was fairly disappointing. Yeah, I thought he was fine defensively. The same liabilities he usually has, nothing worse, nothing better. And his touch just let him down too often. He didn't get forward in the ways that he's so good at getting forward, which is usually such an important part to this team. Especially in that match we had a red card. Like, his ability to get out and run the pitch and carry the ball the whole length of the pitch a couple of times gives you a little bit of respite, gives you a little bit of a break of the team coming forward, and he wasn't able to offer that when we needed him to. So I would agree. I mean, I would give Turner probably a 6 out of 10. I'd probably give Jedi like a 3 or 4 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, I think you saw, like, Jedi's at his best when Pulisic is out on that left side, and we talked about it. As Berhalter made hundreds of wrong decisions, I'm not sure I would fault him throwing Pulisic at right wing after what he did at Milan to allow Gio to play that left side because he played well there. But like you see it suffer a little when he's not on that left wing. I think Jedi isn't as good. And then I don't know. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Scally, does he keep his spot?
I mean, I think right now it would be hard. It would be very harsh to Joe Scally for him to lose that right back spot. You have to remember, Serginho Dest probably not playing in the next group of friendlies at the very least. Potentially not even the next group after that. So I think Joe Scally is your right back for the next 3 to 5 U.S. men's national team matches, regardless, due to injury.
But how much importance is put on these friendlies a year and a half before?
Depending on who the manager is, could be huge.
All right. Well, I mean,
at the very least, you've got a player when Serginho Dest comes back that if you're not playing well, you will lose your spot to a very viable option.
Right. Like, is there a world where Dest is amazing at left back and Jedi's not good enough? Can Dest play left back? Like, no. All these players are so comfortable in their position. Our midfield was awful the entire tournament.
Awful.
Our midfield was awful the entire tournament.
I genuinely could not tell you who I think the best midfielder was. I don't have...
And they got... The first match, we discussed it. Holy shit, they were so lost. I think that was a tactical issue from Berhalter.
For sure.
But they were awful against Bolivia. And then you kind of let them off the hook because we got a red card in the second match.
So we never possessed the ball.
And then the third match, it's like they were just fine.
Adams was the best of the three in the third match.
And Musa was invisible, and McKennie was awful the entire tournament.
Correct.
And then the only positives are we know Pulisic always shows up.
I thought Richards, outside of a few weak passes, was fairly good in defense for his first time really starting in a major tournament. I thought Richards and Ream were good. I'd give them as a pairing a 7 out of 10.
I'd rather have a pairing at center back that's going to play every single match together. Ream's going to get slower, but like we don't have better options to where he's like we need that. We need a vet. Clearly, this team needs a fucking veteran presence.
For sure.
Which we just don't have in the slightest. This team is young, and they show it time and time again. Where a young team led by an idiot is a recipe for fucking disaster.
For sure. And then going to the front line, I mean, I think Weah unfortunately gets a 0 out of 10. Yeah. He is, if you're going to choose a player to blame for us going out, he unfortunately has to take the blame.
I mean, it's harsh, but it's factual. I think we can both agree if we don't get a red card that match, we're through to the group stage.
Yeah,
it's unfortunately that simple. All the blame doesn't go on him because
Berhalter takes plenty of it. And McKennie and Robinson, but
we still should have gotten a draw from that match. We still could have gotten a win from the match, red card or no red card, and we weren't good enough today. But in black and white, if he doesn't get a red card, we're in the group stage
for sure. And I think Reyna was fine at times. I think we can agree he's too inconsistent to be relied on.
Too inconsistent.
Like he'll have 25 minutes of unbelievable balls being pinged, finding the spaces in between the lines and making things happen. And then where was he in the second half? I didn't see him do one good thing in the second half. And I think Pulisic had a great pre-tournament and he had a good first match of the tournament. He was okay in that Panama game considering everything that happened. But he wasn't great against Uruguay. He didn't grab the game out of the balls.
He had a lot of support on that.
No, he didn't. He was stuck on the right side.
He was supported by Scally, who's not great in attack, and Weston, who was our worst player on the pitch.
And this is why I was very hesitant to taking him out of that position on the left wing. You're taking your best player who can grab the game and make it his own out of a place where he feels comfortable doing that. Obviously, the Balogun injury in the Uruguay game killed us. And he was, aside from being great, linking up with Pulisic, was obviously scored 2 fantastic goals. So that was a real killer.
I mean, that's the
one positive is that Balogun seemingly...
He's our number 9 for good.
Guaranteed to be our number 9.
No conversation needs to be had around it. Regardless of how he plays for club or country,
agreed.
He's our number 9, and it's not particularly close. I mean, again, what did Pepe do to deserve to be the immediate replacement at striker? He was awful the entire...
Yeah, I mean, I think he offers a little bit more in hold-up than Haji, but he took too long to get Haji on. Josh Sargent should never have gotten on. I mean...
I don't understand the Josh Sargent inclusion consistently because what does he do better than Haji, really?
Literally not one thing.
Right, so I just... And
he doesn't even have the versatility of being able to receive the ball on the wing and play from there.
We saw 2 minutes of Malik, but
He was good in that 2 minutes.
I would love to see Malik Tillman start with.
We don't have that. We don't have that profile anywhere. A massive body who's good with the ball at his feet. Yes, he's wasteful at times. Sometimes he takes too long. But
Reyna is the king of wasteful.
I'd
rather take a chance. Do
also,
something different.
As we were saying, McKennie was awful in every match. There's 20 minutes left. And the match is on the line. You need a more offensive player. You need to hold him accountable. Otherwise, what is stopping him from continuing to put in bad shifts? He put in a terrible shift in this tournament.
Yeah.
And obviously, Weston McKennie will continue to be one of the main parts of this U.S. men's national team. But it's okay if sometimes your best players need to come off the pitch. That is sometimes the hard decision that managers have to make. Gregg Berhalter is not good at making hard decisions. We saw it at halftime. Even I was saying I think he will wait to make that sub because I don't think he wants to have to make the decision. He didn't make the decision. It cost us. I'm not the manager of the U.S. I didn't have to make that decision. He needed to make a decision. He decided not to make one. And when he does make decisions, they're usually the wrong decision.
Well, looking back, he was clearly hedging the entire time.
Of course. He was hedging that draw.
Which is a huge problem. And I'm not saying when it did become 1-1 to continue to go ultra attacking. You can maybe show your players through your substitutions, your awareness of the other scoreline. Like instead of taking Adams off and putting a more,
you put Johnny on.
You put Johnny on and just get fresh legs, and it gives you the opportunity to, if that result. I mean, I hate even hedging this in the first place, but it gives you that chance. But letting them know, and then it's just a shambles.
Eventually, they're gonna find out, and that's fine. But telling them right before a set piece, and the second it happens, like. Let's make sure that the game's like kind of get back into the rhythm.
This guy is supposed to be your leader, and he's the one
There's no leader. There's no one leading the team.
Essentially telling you, I don't really think we can go get this result. Like, let's just get the draw.
By the way, the level completely dropped the rest of that game. We were well worse in possession. The whole team just, because we gave up the goal and the whole team just lost confidence.
Honestly, that's why I said on our live stream, if we get the draw and Bolivia gets the draw, I kind of hate it. It doesn't do anything. Like, that...
Right, like we get through, so Berhalter gets the goodness of getting through. We skate through when we shouldn't, then we get our asses kicked by Colombia anyway, 100%.
What are we doing here?
Would have been good for the content, but there are more important things than the content.
It's just, I struggle to see a light at the end of the tunnel because, like, it's not like in American sports where you can take the long road, tank, and hopefully hit on a couple draft picks. It's not like we have a ton of trust and faith in the project we're building. Like we're in limbo of, is this our golden generation? I mean, with the way
not our
US
golden generation, but yes,
soccer is progressing, it factually won't be our golden generation. But looking in the short term, like, we have a team that should be getting out of the group stage. We don't, and then Berhalter continues to be our manager, and it's just a cycle that's repetitive.
100%. All right, one more, maybe two more questions. First, assuming when this goes live, Gregg Berhalter has not been fired yet by tomorrow morning.
He won't be.
Feels that's highly unlikely, especially while the USA is hosting this tournament. They're not going to also deal with firing a manager. We've joked about Pep and Klopp. We need a new manager long before they would be available or interested. Do you have any realistic names or hopes that you would like to see as the manager for the next cycle?
Like, I don't have, like, it's not realistic. My only true hope is that a veteran manager, like, is interested in someone's a little tired of how demanding a club season is with cups and European competitions, and really enjoys America and just wants to vibe out and be the U.S. men's national team manager. And, like, because, like, in reality, if you could become a legend in America if you're the reason that U.S. soccer blows up and takes us on a run. Like, I understand people make fun of U.S. soccer, and honestly, as it should be, but there is a ton of passionate fans waiting to cling on to this team. And also, there's a lot of casual fans who will be more and more than happy to cling on to this U.S. men's national team at the World Cup. And if you can be the reason that we make a run, people will love you for it. Like, there's something to be said. Like, living in America, we may shit on it but a lot of outsiders love America and think America is very cool. And maybe someone wants to, like,
It's
Carlo
the big-
Ancelotti is spending his holiday in Montana.
I saw that. That's so funny.
Like-
a town of 1,000.
People come here to vacation. Messi came here to vibe with his boys in Miami.
No, for sure. I mean, listen, not only is it a great opportunity for that, but you come here and you make soccer 2, 3, 4 times as big as it is now in a country of 330 million people, that we're talking about large numbers. Then some of your best athletes in 20 years, I know that's a long way down the road, but
still.
Kids growing up right now who are 6, 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old become massive soccer players, and the best athletes in the country, maybe some of them decide to start playing soccer.
And
you see it all. You see it now with like players like Odell Beckham Jr. He was in the U.S. youth soccer program, and obviously he chose football. There's so much more money in football. There's so much more chance at a great career in football in this country. But you show that there's a route to stardom and fame and money in this sport, in this country. You start to get some of the best young athletes in the world wanting their dreams to be to play for the U.S. men's national team. And that's, to me, is the biggest opportunity of this World Cup, is just showing the fun that it could be to be a hero to U.S. sports fans, which you don't have the opportunity right now to a large group. And you will have the first opportunity at the 2026 World Cup. And it'll just be very sad if we waste that opportunity with Gregg Berhalter at the helm.
I agree. And to your point, I think it's also like the perception to casuals from the media. Like, if you're not a diehard fan, it's similar to how baseball isn't becoming as cool because, like, it's not covered in a cool way. People call it boring, and like that's why basketball and football are looked at as the coolest things to do. If you're a casual, just sports fan who is on social media, all you see is negativity surrounding U.S. soccer.
Yeah, U.S. soccer fans hate the sport right now.
Berhalter, the people who cover it suck. The amount of attention, like, it's not cool to be a U.S. soccer player. And we need to, and then on top of that, Weah gets a red card, and not only is he getting racially abused, but for some reason Balogun is getting racially abused. I'm not sure if they're so racist that they confuse the two. But Balogun is the one who scored
unbelievable goals, gave us a lead in a match after he gave us exactly what we needed.
So after we just hosted the biggest tournament that we've hosted here in a long time, what you will see is our manager is a fucking joke who won't get fired. It was run ridiculously. The fields weren't good, and the fans didn't show out, and the U.S. players got racially abused. If you're a casual follower, what in God's name would possibly be attractive to you about playing for the U.S. men's national team?
100%.
Like, there's just no. That's why there's no positives to take away. We talked about our thesis for this entire podcast was Copa America is here, and then the World Cup is here, and soccer is going to absolutely blow up in the U.S.
And we're excited, and we want to share our thoughts, and we want to be a part of it. More than anything, we want to be a part of U.S. soccer because we love soccer. We call it soccer, and we don't care that people say, oh, you're stupid Americans.
I don't
it's
care.
soccer in this country, and it means something to me. It means something to you. Like, I mean, as much as I love Arsenal, and that is, what really got me into the sport, every 4 years and every 2 years, whatever it is, getting to root for the U.S. men's national team was the most fun thing in the world 100%. To me. I just found it to be the one time I really had pride in my country. Like, I don't even care. I'm a huge basketball fan. I don't watch USA basketball.
No.
Who cares? Like, this is just, it has a different feeling, and it just sucks to have it kind of ripped away from you like this. When we got to host a big tournament for really the first time in my adult life and your adult life, it's frustrating.
It's also like U.S. soccer, like, we're Premier League fans, and you become a little isolated. Like, you have a group chat of a few people who watch soccer. I have a group chat but like, when the U.S. plays, it's like,
I have 20 people who don't watch soccer every week texting me throughout the game.
Let's all go to a bar for a game, and you get your friends who you're friends with in every other capacity. And a lot of times, I'm just watching Premier League matches every Saturday by myself.
Right.
And it's like every single person wants to get together and watch the U.S. men's. And there's a portion of that is so nice. I mean, we choose to stream it, but I have 3 different options to go watch it with 3 different sets
100%.
of groups of friends to go watch it with and share what I love with more casual fans. And I'm more than happy to, because I'm more than happy to experience what I love with people who aren't as in love with it.
And by the way, those people want to learn more about 100%. The sport. Every time I watch a U.S. men's national team game or any major tournament game, not just the U.S., the Euros. Like this weekend, I spent a whole weekend with a bunch of guys who don't watch soccer at all, and all they want to do all weekend is beautiful. We're on a lake, and all they want to do all weekend is watch these big tournaments. And this is such an opportunity for the U.S. to show out why we deserve to be at these tournaments and why it's a great time to be a U.S. fan. And it's just really like I don't want this to be a negative podcast. I think that's neither of our goals, to be negative for likes or clicks or views or anything. I think that's a lot of what content creation is right now. But it's hard to be anything but negative about what we just witnessed in these 3 matches. Even the Bolivia match was a 2-0 win, and it felt like a loss.
It was it was a truly awful performance.
Really was something we were looking forward to a lot. And as you mentioned, like, you know, we started this because obviously we like to talk Premier League and whatnot, but our goal was to be a part of the U.S. soccer family and eventually to be at the World Cup with them in some capacity to enjoy it and you know, show pride in our country. And this was the opposite of that in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. There's not, I mean, we're getting deep, but like that's how strong we feel. Of course. It just sucks. And there's really not much more that needs to be said, because I'd be more than happy to, like, in American sports, it's like after that season, like we know that coach is getting fired. So this NFL team has something to look forward to. It's a new generation, but like, I have nothing to look forward to if Berhalter is the manager. That is very simply the reality, and that sucks that our soccer federation doesn't have the same aspirations that all the U.S. soccer fans do.
I mean, hopefully they do. Hopefully they take their time with this decision and get it right. To me, I mean, how this little conversation got started, the only person I can think of off the top of my head who might be an interesting manager, who I think is young and old at the same time, who's experienced, who's done it at the highest level, who's expressed interest in the job prior, who's managed at Nice, he's managed at Crystal Palace, he's managed in the MLS, all kind of checks a lot of boxes, is Patrick Vieira. I think he'd be a very interesting name to take over the job, at least for this next cycle. Get us to the World Cup. He's a manager who you could at least understand the hiring. Somebody who's managed in a bunch of different countries, who has a lot of experience, who has managed Chris Richards, managed somebody who's on the team, who has an understanding of what it takes to win and will be respected. And I think that's what we've been talking about a lot, is we don't feel that Gregg Berhalter is necessarily respected as a higher power. Fear is a good thing sometimes. You want to fear the people in charge, not fear so much that you are scared to do your job, but fear that if you don't respect them, you won't be respected in return. Everyone wants mutual respect, and I don't think there's a lot of mutual respect in this locker room necessarily amongst the players or the manager. And to me, Vieira, who was the captain of Arsenal through their best days, is the kind of manager who could bring that kind of respect and at the very least turn this around for us. He may not be the one to bring us to a World Cup semifinal or win a major tournament, but somebody who could turn it around for a country who really is in dire need of change, which is, again, I am shocked to be here saying that. I know we joked a lot about Berhalter and really don't think of him as highly as a manager, but to be where we are at the end of this tournament, being grouped is hard to swallow.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head, man. Whether or not Vieira is a class manager or not, one thing you will get for them, these players will respect him. To our generation, which weirdly enough is the players who are on the pitch for us, our age, Patrick Vieira is somewhat of a legend.
Of course.
Playing-wise, he'll be respected. And then just that French mentality where nothing but greatness for French footballers is acceptable. 100%. And so if he's not good tactically, he makes the wrong subs, at least we know we won't be punching people in the face, getting meaningless red cards, and we won't be getting lazy performances that players don't think there will be consequences to, because we just know that won't be the reality with a Patrick Vieira. I think 100%. Don't bring in an American. I hope whoever we bring in, the players don't understand half of what he says, except for the fact that if you're not good enough, you're not going to be on the field. And it's really that simple. Like, you saw it with Bielsa. I mean, I keep touching on Bielsa. Bielsa is a legend, and this Uruguay side plays exactly how a team led by a great manager plays. And that was everything we just saw wraps up the U.S. men's national team and Berhalter versus all the other great sides in the world in 90 minutes. And if you can't see it or the U.S. Soccer Federation can't see it, then we're fucked, essentially.
100%. Last question.
Yeah.
If Berhalter is not fired prior to our next group of friendlies, do you see any world in which he somehow gets fired before the World Cup? If it's not now, is it never, in terms of the never being the World Cup? Because there's no competitive matches now between now and the World Cup.
That's the concern, because there's never going to be
or if there
real
are,
pressure. Like we and other members of the media and on social media will provide pressure towards the Berhalter situation. But in reality, he's going to try different things. He may try different players because they're friendlies and nothing competitive is happening for another 2 years. And it's like, yeah, if it can't happen, it's also like that would just be poor planning. If you believe he's not the guy, there's nothing in the friendlies that is going to show you
that
he's not. And why not give the new guy as much time to breed this squad? So yeah, if it doesn't happen between the next set of friendlies, it really is doomsday, because I would love to give him the benefit of the doubt to where he could like change, but like changes tactically aren't gonna fix our problems. Our problems are much deeper, and that's from top to bottom. If the U.S. Soccer Federation shows some mentality and some want to win by firing Berhalter and bringing a new manager, that will reset the mentality. If the right person is brought in, that will allow us to move forward. But we're stuck right now. We're really stuck.
We really are. I don't know if you have much else to say. It's been a pretty depressing episode in a lot of ways, and I'm sure many of you who are watching share similar feelings. And again, like I think it's really important to me, at least, that like we're not here to just like yell into a camera and for clicks and likes. Like we really, like, more than anything, like we joke around with a lot of our Premier League stuff. We're Arsenal and Tottenham fan. It's a perfect rivalry and whatever. But when it comes to this, we're on the same page about a lot of things, and really just disappointing, like, to not even have a knockout round match in this tournament we hosted. And I just hope we're not sitting here in 2 years at the World Cup feeling the same way.
I agree. And what's funny is I thought this was going to be helpful, speaking our thoughts. But, like, after the loss, I was kind of just, like, angry and upset that, like, we don't have any more U.S. men's national teams matches to watch in this tournament. But the way we just talked through that, like, made it so much worse. Like,
yeah, no, I'm depressed.
I was thinking very short term after that loss, and the more we talked about it, it's like
we basically have 2 years before we watch anything that matters, and at that point, you may just be so soul sucking. Yeah,
it's tough. I guess I move on to watching England lose with a similar situation that we're having, and then on to the Premier League season,
which will be even more depressing for you. Anyway, thank you all for tuning in for our U.S. men's national team coverage this summer. It won't end here. We will be doing a lot on transfers for U.S. men's national team players. We'll discuss some other players who maybe we didn't get into too much detail during the year.
Maybe some younger players.
Who
can make a difference in 2 years.
We've got the U.S. team, under 23 team at the Olympics that we will be covering as well. Some really exciting players there. You got John Tolkien, Cade Cowell, young goalie Gabriel Slonina, who is at Chelsea. Some players who could be in the 2026 World Cup squad, potentially in the starting 11.
Maybe a backup right back so we don't have to bring Shaq.
Sure. A lot of fun things to come. We will also be covering the rest of the Euros. We will do our Euros roundup after the round of 16 and onwards, and then into the summer with lots of great transfer stuff. And we're 6 weeks from the Premier League season.
Crazy. And we have some time slots freed up now that the U.S. is unexpectedly out. So we'll come up with some new things to talk about.
For sure. So make sure to hit the subscribe button if you enjoyed our U.S. men's national team coverage and our live streams. Our social media handles are in the description. Follow us on TikTok and Instagram. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you soon.
Peace.